Hey, what's going on, everybody? Well, the day is finally here. Welcome to Urshel Speaks on this awesome Election Day Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020, a year like we've never seen, and a year that's great opportunities for everyone to go out and make some amazing things happen. So, man, I tell you what, I have been looking forward to and not looking forward to this day. Shout out to my man, Quentin Pullen out in Costa Mesa, California, former roommate of mine, Marine dual service veteran who's running for the office of mayor in Costa Mesa. Man, I'm ready to come out and have an inauguration celebration. I've gotten to know some of the people via social media in Costa Mesa, and I know they can't wait for me to come out there and express my opinion about what they need to do about how they're living and how they're electing their officials. But of course, I've been thinking about this conversation for several weeks, and up until this morning, I knew exactly what I wanted to talk about. Now, you know, we've got the Republican incumbent president, Donald Trump, who is obviously running for re-election. We've got Joe Biden, former vice president for Barack Obama, who is running for the Democratic nomination for president. And man, it's been on top of the year that we've had with all the things that we're not used to, all the different things that have happened. We have an interesting, to say the least, election season. It's been interesting campaigning, and it's been something that we've talked about quite a bit. And there's been a lot of vitriol. I haven't listened to as many campaign speeches as I thought I was going to. There's not a whole lot. I did watch. I think I watched both of the debates for the president and the vice presidential debate. Man, I tell you, and I know why today on the way in, I know why my topic of conversation has changed, because it goes along with what I've been thinking and feeling and some changes that I'm making personally. I can tell you, I'm going to be disconnecting from news probably throughout the rest of the year for the most part. I mean, the main sources of news that I constantly am getting, and we'll talk about that, but there's some data that I picked up on. And so there's a couple things I want to do, some changes I want to make for things that are happening for me personally. But I figured this is a great time to unplug a little bit, some from social media, some from the constant news feeds that we have. But as I've been going through this campaign and listening to candidates all the way from the president all the way down, there are people that I know that are running for office that I've been disappointed in some of the things that I've seen with people running for office, and understanding that in some ways, I know some people would say, well, that has just become the nature of the beast. And I just don't know why we've decided to be a part of the beast. And so what I have, and this is all off the cuff and all straight from the heart today. And I think you're gonna be able to see why when we get into the discussion, what I really want to talk about. Because, you know, so many elections now, you know, we've heard the lesser of two evils. I don't know how many people, if I had $1 for every person that says, I don't really like either candidate, but, you know, I'm voting for the lesser of two evils, or I'm voting on just this one issue. You probably know how I feel about when people say that, because I think that's a ludicrous statement. But I'm not in judgment. That's just my opinion. None of us are one issue people. There are lots of issues that matter to me, issues that affect my family, my children, the economy. So for me to justify one person over one issue and ignore everything else, that, to me doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense. But that, again, that's me. I'm going to let me be me and you be you. But as I listen to the campaigns, it's something that I've talked about a little bit before, and how much, not only the negativity, which I'm not going to get into because I don't want to bring that energy, but how much, so much of it is talking about the other person. And I've just been paying attention to my level of happiness and my level of joy and my level of excitement and enthusiasm about life. And I haven't been beat down by all the things that have happened in 2020. Those things, haven't, made me depressed or frustrated or challenged. I've seen some opportunity and things have been good, and some great things have happened in the middle of, challenging things that have happened to us that we've all experienced. But I just really started last night, and then some dreams that I had, and even before I went to bed, a couple of new books that I picked it up that I've been, taking in, and I'll be honest, I have felt over the last few weeks and months a continual degradation of really the vibrancy of my own spirit and attitude, and some of that absolutely has to do with my consumption of news and opinions. I've decided that, there are conversations that I wanted to jump into because, it's my duty to obliterate, ignorance and different things. And, it's amazing some of the stuff that we see, especially on social media, people posting, people expressing their opinions, which I love for people to do because I love to express mine. But I realized through last night and this morning, and the reason why I needed to make some of these changes, and I hope that this hits you in a good place, especially as we move into this time of year, which always has lots of different things going on with the holidays and lots of emotion and different things that are happening. And I thought about the leaders that we're voting for on all the levels. I thought about how the campaigns are being run. And how none of that makes me feel good as someone who, is a leader and who believes in leading and influence. And it made me think about someone that's very personal and very special to me. And this is a gentleman that I call Uncle Ray. And I call him Uncle Ray because he's my dad's brother. And he's 91 years old. And so early this morning, I got up at 4:30 and, had some time to, get my brain food in and all these different things, walk the dogs, get some exercise and charge myself, get my meditation, gonna make it an amazing day. And in that process, I couldn't stop thinking about my Uncle Ray, my dad's big brother. Rayfield Metcalf is his name. And there's so many interesting things. But I wanted to take a few minutes to talk about him because I think he is the type of person that we need to be thinking about. Yes, it's election day. Yes, there's going to be tons and tons of news and controversy and all sorts of things going on. But just thinking about my Uncle Ray right now makes me smile on the inside. And I'm going to tell you why. In the 50 years that I've been alive, now let me preface this. My Uncle Ray, for most of my life, has always lived somewhere else. Or we lived somewhere else. We lived in Central Texas, and he lived in Dallas, and we moved back to Dallas, and I can't remember if he was in maybe Houston or he's lived a couple places, but he ended up in North Carolina. We were actually in North Carolina The 12 years I was there, he was in North Carolina and still is in North Carolina. And he's been there, for quite some time. But even then, I was all the way on the coast and he was in Charlotte on the other side of North Carolina. And so my Uncle Ray is not an uncle that I have, that I grew up, going over to his house and spending holidays. And my dad was the youngest of 7. And so my Uncle Ray, actually, my father grew up with his nieces and nephews kind of like cousins, because he was more he was kind of like a big cousin. So he's more in that age bracket. And so my memories growing up of my Uncle Ray, I don't have a ton, that I would love to share with you, because I know they would all be great based on what you're going to hear over the next few minutes when we talk about him. But one of my most impactful memories with my uncle, and I've, gone out to his house and spent some time with him, spent a few days and processing some things when I was in certain transition in life. And but one of my most impactful memories with my Uncle Ray, and I'll share this to set up what I want to talk about, and what I really think that we all need to hear, especially today, especially now, but the truth is every day of our life and how we live our lives. But one of my most impactful memories of my Uncle Ray was the day we buried my father. My father died at 52. Way too soon for a great man to die. But he died at 52. And after the funeral, which was long and, all of these things, great celebration of the life that my father lived. And then we had the burial, and there was lots of people, traffic, there was even car accidents, all of this stuff. And then, we went back to our home and we had lots of food and lots of family and friends. I mean, dozens and dozens of people were in our house, which was kind of normal for our life anyway. And under these circumstances, lots of people came to spend time with us. And I remember that day, after we'd been home for a couple of hours and everyone had eaten and changed clothes, there was a knock at the door. And I went to the door, and my Uncle Ray, when I opened the door, he was standing there. He had a hat on, he had glasses on, and I opened the door, and there is my Uncle Ray. Now, this was emotional in a lot of ways, and one, because my uncles all look very much alike. They all, you can tell that they're brothers, and you to see me next to my uncles, I could probably pass for any one of their sons. And so there's this striking resemblance between my uncle and my father, who we just said goodbye to. And he's standing in the door, and he sees me, and the look of joy and happiness on his face when I opened the door, he smiled, and he did something my dad always did. He took his glasses off and he started laughing, and he just had all of this love and joy and peace on this day that was a very sad day for all of us. That was the first thing that hit me at the door, was the joy and the smile and the laughter on his face. And let me tell you the most remarkable thing about my Uncle Ray. In my 50 years of living, and again, I didn't grow up, being, in his house all the time, and, as close as some of my other uncles that we, lived closer to, and had a more consistent time relationship with. But in my 50 years of living, every word that has come out of my uncle's mouth, he's 91 years old. Every time he's ever opened his mouth, every time I've ever seen his face, he does nothing but smile and encourage and say the most beautiful things and build people up and exhort them. He's a preacher. He's a pastor. He was in his 70s, 80s, still pastoring 2 churches and preaching. As a matter of fact, you should go on my Facebook page, and every Saturday afternoon, about 5 o'clock, I think, Central Time, he, at 91 years old, is preaching on Facebook, just sharing the love of God and the love that's in his heart every single week at 91 years old. And he's been doing it throughout this pandemic. But here's the thing. Every word that comes out of his mouth is encouragement. Everything that he says is life. Every conversation, every time I have heard my Uncle Ray open his mouth, it's been filled with joy. It's been filled with love. It's been filled with encouragement. And, and he's 91 years old. So I don't want to in any way imply that my uncle hasn't probably had some challenging days. He's lived through a lot that's gone on in our country. He's experienced so many things, the death of his siblings, the death of his wife, so many things that he's experienced. But I have never, ever heard anything, felt anything, experienced anything from my uncle except encouragement, joy, laughter, and scripture, speaking the things that he has lived his entire life from the Bible and that he shared and poured into other people's life. And so the reason why I feel like this is a conversation that I wanted to have today, and even, in a tribute to the man that he is, because in all the noise that's going on, in all the things that we are seeing and hearing, in all the multitude of negativity that we will experience, if we're tuned into news, if we're locked in as the election goes on, and I can only assume after, even we know who the next president of the United States is. I know that what we need, what you and I need, is not only do we need more men like my Uncle Ray, but we need to be like him. We need to be people. We need to be a nation. We need to have our social media feeds. We need to have the mail that's coming in our house, the things that we're taking in. So there is so much importance into what goes into your gates, right? Your eyes, your ears, your mouth. What you eat is going to impact your health. When you eat is going to impact your health. What you drink, all of these things. But it's the same with the information that we're taking in. And I just, I look at the fact that my uncle's 91 and he's still firing on all cylinders. He's still an amazing man. And I cannot hear his voice. I can't see his face in my mind without smiling, without feeling encouraged. And you know what that is? It's life. He is creating life in every person. And that's why I firmly believe that's why he's still living. That's why he's still strong at 91 years old. That's why he's still good looking and got a great sense of humor and everything at 91 years old. And he might be here another 30 years from now. And I got a feeling he's going to be just like he is right now, if he is, because he is producing life in every person that he talks to, in every encounter that he has. My son got to meet him for the first time. Tripp got to meet him for the first time after the death of his sister, my Aunt Lois. And you know what? As he said goodbye to his sister 2 years ago, all he had to give was life and love and joy and encouragement. Now, we know that life is not all sunshine and rainbows, right? But you know what? I've never created any sunshine. I've never created any rainbows. All that stuff has been external. All that stuff has come whether I wanted sunshine or whether I wanted rainbows or whether I wanted rain or whatever I wanted, that stuff is coming. I don't have anything to do with making that happen, but I've got everything to do with how I receive, interpret, and how I let it impact my life. And so really what I want to say today is I've seen news of people boarding up here in Dallas and DC, people boarding up businesses. I hear people talking about civil wars. I've been hearing people talk about race wars and the division in our country. I hear people talking about all this stuff. And you know what I decided? I just want to listen to my Uncle Ray. And I want to be like my Uncle Ray. And I want to surround myself with people like my Uncle Ray. I want to find the sources of life that reproduce and create greater life, greater joy, and stop allowing all of this garbage. We're paying money for it. CNN and Fox News and OAN and MSNBC, all of these outlets, guess what? They wouldn't be doing it if they weren't making money. They wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't what we wanted to consume. And somehow we've allowed our appetite to be the thing that makes us angry, sad, and sick. The information, the diet of all the things that we're accepting into our life, they're not creating life. It's sucking the life out of us. I mean, it's a fact. It's a fact that if you watch, I think it's 10 minutes. I'll get the data and post it in the comments. But if you watch 10 minutes of news, you're 3 times more likely to say, I had a crappy day. Isn't that amazing? And we have entire channels that are dedicated to giving us crappy news all day long. So today on Election Day, as we believe and pray for our country, we hopefully decide that, no matter who the person is that's sitting in the White House, that we're going to be one nation under God, and we hold on to all these truths that we believe are self-evident, that all men are created equal. And as we go after life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness in this nation, what I really hope and what I really want to encourage you to do is, if you can't find someone like my Uncle Ray, if you don't have someone like that in your life, again, feel free to go to my Facebook page and go check out, every Saturday, his sermons. But if you can't find someone like that, shoot me a text, give me a call, free 2 minutes of encouragement for anybody who needs it today. But if you can't find someone like that, and if you don't have someone like that in your life, then here's what I want to encourage you to do. Why don't you become that person? Be that person. A long time ago, everybody wanted to be like Mike. And today, I think we need a nation of people who want to be like Uncle Ray, who want to be a source of life, encouragement, passion, and vibrancy. So enjoy Election Day and all that will bring into our life. But remember, today and every day, make sure that you have something, someone, and be the source of life, the source of joy, the source of encouragement that the world really needs. Because all of this other stuff, it's killing us. It's not allowing us to live our best life and be who we really were created to be. I'm Urshel. This is Urshel Speaks, and we'll see you next week. Have a great day.